Hey guys, today we are marking two seemingly very different events in American history. But as I took a closer look, I saw some very unique, similar themes in these two events that I think help enlighten the news cycle that we're in. So I wanted to unpack each one by one, pulling on these threads in the hope that I send you into the weekend feeling a little bit lighter with more perspective on the news and maybe feeling a little bit smarter. So today in history, the Statue of Liberty arrives in New York City. It was thought of many years earlier, and although we commonly think of the Statue of Liberty being associated with immigration, that in fact was not the case for its origin. The man who thought of the Statue of Liberty really admired America and all that America stood for. And he was also an abolitionist. He in particular wanted to honor Abraham Lincoln. And so the idea was to build this magnificent statue. If you visit the Statue of Liberty in New York City, you'll see that it is the neighbor of Ellis Island. It arrived years before Ellis Island was ever built or ever opened. And although we associate the two together now, and there's nothing wrong with that, it's important to note originally the Statue of Liberty had a little bit of a different intention. Now, we're also marking another date in American history that's called Juneteenth. This may be a day that many of us weren't familiar with until even this year. I only first heard about this when I moved to Texas because Texas was the first state to officially hold Juneteenth as a holiday. Juneteenth celebrates the end of slavery. And although we commonly think that slavery ended with the Emancipation Proclamation and the end of the Civil War, that's just not the reality. You see, on June 19th, 1865, this is when a Union general came to Galveston, Texas, and passed on the word several months after the end of the war that the war was over, the Civil War was over, and slavery was abolished. And it wasn't until that point that liberty was realized, at least the start of liberty. So you see, these two stories have that in common. Liberty, national liberty, and personal liberty. And when you take a step back from the news cycle today, whether we're talking about the pandemic or race in America, the underlying theme to all of this is liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What does liberty look like in 2020? What does freedom, true freedom, really look like? Freedom to live the life that you want to travel the way you want to dress the way you want to pursue your dreams the way that you want to. And when you look back on the past in America, you'll see since 1776, we've defined liberty in many different ways. And right now, America is following a familiar pattern, not an easy pattern, not a relaxing pattern. It's a disruptive, upsetting at times pattern, and a fearful pattern at times because we don't know really what direction we're always headed. There's a great uncertainty that's surrounding us. But when you look back on our history and the debate about what does liberty really look like in America, you'll see that we've had these big open public debates about this topic since the founding of America. It is wildly American, what we are all experiencing right now. We're like the family that has the big argument in public, not behind closed doors. And yet we see change and we evolve. Maybe not as fast as we want to, maybe not always in the way that we initially thought, but that's part of the process. And so I take a step back from this week, thinking about history, thinking about the news, and wanting to go a little deeper now and then with smarter news. You'll notice that periodically we sprinkle a little bit of history into the news cycle. That's intentional. History is like the salt of the news cycle. You throw in a little bit, it makes everything taste better. If you have firm feet on the ground, you can build a foundation of knowledge about what's happening with current events. And I always want us to be reminded about where we came from, because as you know, if you know where you came from, you have a better sense of where you're going. And I always was told when I worked in more traditional news that the audience didn't want a deeper conversation. And I argue different. I actually think when we have a little bit deeper conversation, even if it's a few minutes like this, it helps relieve some of the anxiety that the headlines are causing on a daily basis, because we realize we're part of a much bigger story. And maybe, just maybe, we're intentionally here at this moment to have this conversation, to be part of this chapter. I am so proud of you and this community that we built through Smarter News. You all come from a huge diversity of backgrounds and very different opinions, but you have something in common, and that's Smarter News. It's this platform. And I can't be more excited about what we're building together. Clarity, concise, nonpartisan news that hopefully helps enrich your life. You see, Smarter News was part of my vision, my personal vision for liberty. And I'm so excited we're here together. So cheers to the weekend and cheers to liberty and some thinking about what it looks like in America in 2020.